Hello and welcome to the Quebber channel. I am Jason, your host. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today's going to be quite a long video, and it's to do with my mobility outside the house. Now, unlike a lot of people who use a mobility scooter, my use is due to mental illness. For 20 years, while looking after Paola and being with Paola, my entire anchor for reality and everything else that my autism, my bipolar, and my ADHD connected to was Paola. This allowed me to function. When she was gone, everything started to break down. I didn't have the ability to mask. I didn't have the ability to do a lot of things. I came very close to what we would class as, to put it politely, an end of life event, an ELO. But I didn't. I got through it. I'm still getting through it, even now, 7 years later. Now, we tried everything to get me to leave the house. But the problem is, if I'm outside of, pardon me, if I'm outside of my safe space, then I start to disassociate with reality. My brain starts to go different places, and I just disconnect, which can be very dangerous because it means that while I'm outside of my safe space, I could be halfway crossing a road and suddenly my brain would trigger something and I just fall down. Or I could be in a busy area or a dangerous area and I would just become catatonic and anybody could take my stuff. You'd hope that people wouldn't, but that could happen. So leaving my house is a almost insurmountable, I thought, at the time. Now, this was at the time of a certain virus and that, so it didn't really matter much. I was happy to stay indoors. But after that, there was things I had to do. Not many times, but so I'd have to go for CT scans at the hospital. I would have to go to get a blood test. Now, sometimes they'd come out and give me a blood test, but I always felt guilty about using up the finite resources of my GP surgery for things like that, even though it was justified and valid. Give me a sec. Right, now, so one of the first things I tried to do was to turn the outside world into a game. What do I mean by that? See my journey to the hospital or my journey to the doctors as a quest. See everybody that I would see between my house and where I was going as an NPC. And so what I would do is 3 or 4 days before I was leaving the house, I would create scripts in my head and I'd create this game world in exacting detail, and I would leave the house. It was extremely mentally tiring, and for a 15-minute walk to my doctor, it would ruin me for the rest of the week. And sometimes it didn't work. Sometimes I would get there and then the game world would disappear and I would freak out, hyperventilate, and have a panic attack. and have to cling onto the counter or the stairs or anything. It was horrific. It wrecked me. And if had someone talked to me in a way that I wasn't expecting, that I didn't have a scripted response to, I would just freeze up. I tried to enhance this by using augmented reality glasses and stuff like that, which did help, because having superimposed a hood and that onto a pair of X-real glasses and things like that, and Google Maps and that, made it more like a game world, and I didn't have to control the game world as much with active mental control. But whenever I had to do that, like I said, it exhausted me mentally for an entire week afterwards. And my doctor could see this, and other people could see this happening. So we tried with people helping me get places and that, but the support that the council gave you can only last for a few weeks, and that without paying for it and that, things like that. I'm saying "and that" a lot. I don't like it. It's bothering me. So went through all these different ways of trying to do it. Because the further I got away from the day of Paola's death, the more disintegrated all my old coping strategies. For 6 months after Paola died, every time I went to the front door, my hands would go in the position before me, like this, as if I was pushing her wheelchair. And this is the first clue that came to me that there was another option. About this time I had my PIP review, and the lady, like with every time I've had a PIP review, even though they stress me out, by the time they hear all the crap that I deal with and that, they're usually on my side. And so that's when you know you're really screwed up, because I am classed as severely disabled, which it doesn't convey very well through here, because you've got to remember, when I'm on the camera, I'm focused on the camera, I'm focused on this, and this keeps me grounded. Like everything, I need something to ground me. So she says, why don't you try to get a car? Well, I'll try put through that you get the higher level of mobility in there. Says, but I can't drive. And that says, but you could get someone else to drive you around, so you could leave the house. You could turn a car into a mobile safe space. So yeah, it was the person that was supposed to review me to try to get me off disability who actually suggested more disabled aids. It was quite interesting on that. But the thing is this, realised very quickly that even if I had got the higher level mobility component, that it would anchor me, because I had no one close to me who could be my driver. My friend Britt would have happily come down and helped me out, but he couldn't spend all his time here and that. So it wouldn't be my safe space, it would be, and how would I get anywhere? I'd be able to get in the car, it'd be my safe space, I'd go somewhere, but what then? That's when we started looking into wheelchairs and motorised wheelchairs. I spent like 6 months going through it all with my friends online. I drove them sick probably, who were crazy trying to deal with me, always talking about different mobility scooters and different ways of doing this. And so that's how it happened. Because my idea was this, okay, so I can walk, but what if I've got something like a mobility scooter, a safe space for me, a mechanical and electronic advanced device which will connect to my technology affinity and allow me to leave the house. And nobody was completely sure whether this would work. Not my doctor, not my friends. It was a complete crapshoot. It was, I'm going to try it because this could allow me to leave the house. And so I did all my research. First one I got was a Kimco Max scooter. Nice little scooter, but had some limitations. And then after that one, I got the Quingo Tourer Mark II. The wonderful thing about the Quingo Tourer Mark II is it's got a 55-mile range. It can basically go anywhere, and if you fit it with a rear-facing camera and you fit it with a canopy, it becomes an all-weather vehicle. And that was one of my stresses when I first started going out on a mobility scooter is, what if it rains? What if my technology gets wet? What if this happens? What if that happens? And I mitigated a lot of it. Plus, you got to remember, it's a class 3 vehicle, which means it can go on the road if I want to go on the road. I don't go on the road often, but sometimes I do, and it is allowed to be there. It's registered with the DVLA. It can go up to 8 miles an hour on road, 4 miles an hour on pavement. Now, the thing is, all that goes well. But there's places that the Quingo can't get. It can just about fit in the lift to my local surgery, but that was before I put a canopy on it. And it can just about get around the hospital. You got to remember, for 6 months while my mum was dying in hospital, I went on the Quingo to visit her every morning, every night. Sometimes at midnight I'd go on the Quingo and drive it up there and ride it down to her ward and into her room. It was able to do that. The Quingo is amazing. It is the best one for long distances, for anywhere that I can go like 10, 15, 20 miles out if I ever want to from my town. I go to Trentham Gardens and things like that. I never feel any range anxiety with it. It's always on charge in my front yard because it has the lead acid batteries, not lithium. And what that means is, whereas a lithium ion battery, like your phones, you don't keep them charged all the time because it degrades the battery. Whereas a lead acid battery, you want to trickle charge it all the time because keeping it at full charge stops it from having other issues like degradation during the winter. So just keep it plugged in and charged all the time, so it's always ready. But it has its limitations. You can't go on a bus with it. You can't go on a train with it. You can't. There's certain places you can't go with it, like the doctor's surgery. I know I can make it to the doctor's surgery and in their lift, but it's a challenge that's a problem. So I did some research. It was so successful. I had to sell a tablet and a computer and a few other things in the house to afford it. Because it cost something like, it cost £3,000 second hand. They're £8,000 new, the Quingo are. So £3,000 second hand. And the thing is, it was so successful. It worked so well. My friends were amazed. It became my safe space so quickly that I could go anywhere as long as I was holding on to those the steering lever in the front, and that as long as I was connected to it, I didn't disassociate. I didn't lose my connection with the world. I could basically go everywhere. There's limits to it. I still have to try not to get overwhelmed and not go places when there's a lot of people around and things like that. But it's amazing. I've gone shopping in the big supermarkets with it, and that level of freedom has increased my morale, my positive side brilliantly. It's a wonderful thing. But that's when I thought of what's called the Pride Revo. The Pride Revo is a outlier, basically. What do I mean that? It's a portable scooter. You can break it down into 3 parts, and you can fit those 3 parts even in a very small car. It fits into Brit's car. And it's got 15-mile range. It can carry up to 181 kilograms in weight. It goes 5 miles an hour. It's not a road one, it's a pavement one. And it's amazing, the Pride Revo 2.0. At the moment, it's in parts in the living room, ready for when I next want to go out and go to the doctors, because that's the one I take to the doctors. I've never tried to go to the hospital because it's quite hilly. One day I'm going to have to scout out and see if I can make it up the hill that way, because that would be useful if I've got to go see someone at the hospital. The thing is that it can't get on a bus. We've tried. I had the wonderful people from the local bus, because the local bus line and that has set up these disabled friendly curbs at every single thingy, so that a person's mobility scooter and that can actually get on their vehicles, and they have a space for you as well. It's wonderful. It would have opened up so much for me. But the Pride Revo is just a little bit long to fit into that space. It's a pity. So ever since then, I've been looking at what options I can get, because yes, I can go on the train with it, but even on the train, it's a big thing to take it on the train. Can't take the Quingo on the train. I can take the Pride Revo on the train. But that would mean I could go further. But trains are so expensive. But if you get yourself a bus pass, then I could go anywhere that the buses go. So I've always looked at what other options are there for me. See, one of the biggest problems with me going on a mobility scooter, and I had to basically create logic structures in my mind to allow me, was because when I think of people on disabled devices, I think of people who are physically disabled, who can't walk, who can't run, who can't get about without them. And that was a huge barrier, a massive barrier to me actually being able to sit on a mobility scooter for the first time. That self-consciousness of, I feel like a fraud, I shouldn't be using that. But when I talked to my doctor about it, my doctor pointed out to me, I feel like I shouldn't get a disability scooter because I'm not physically disabled. And so thankfully, my doctor's been very good, and it's like he gives me reality checks now and then. Like he says, you're classed by the DWP as severely disabled. When was the last time you walked out of your house? And I said, never. I just walked out of my house. When's the last time you managed to go to the local shop and get there of your own reconnaissance? Never. And so on. And he says, you're as disabled, just because your illnesses that cause your disabilities are not physical does not mean you are not thinking. If this works for you. And he's always happy to see me on my mobility scooter when I come to see him at the doctor's office and that, because he knows how much I used to have people come to my house for my blood test. Now I can get on my mobility scooter and actually go to the doctor. And it's an achievement, it's a success story. So As people know, at the end of this year, I will have access to some money for the first and probably last time. And that money is going to be used for multiple things. Now, I'm also researching what are called power chairs, which are basically wheelchairs with a motor. You've seen them around. Now, some of them are very technologically advanced. And I've tried one. When I was thinking of getting a mobility scooter, I actually tried one at a local shop, and it's very weird. How can I subscribe it? When you're using a mobility scooter, you're driving it. It's a vehicle. But when you're sitting in a powered wheelchair, and I'm talking one of these really advanced ones, it feels like it's part of your body. And I absolutely loved it. I was zooming around the store on this thing, and I almost got that instead of the Pride Revo. But I got the Pride Revo mobile scooter instead. But still, I am now limited. So my thought is this. And it's a thought that's come about due to this cancer scare that I'm going to have to deal with. The Monday, I'm going to have a blood test and then go and see someone and find out what's actually wrong. That a power chair, because I know I could turn it into a safe space. The technology, I have a technology affinity. So one of these mobility chairs, and we're talking one of the ones that can go like 6 to 8 miles an hour. It can travel 20 miles. It can fit on buses. It can fit on trains. It can go anywhere, basically, that you can. Would give me the chance to explore the country more, to visit the beach, to visit a different part of places without having to rely on my friend coming to visit. I love my friend and I love going out with him, and that it's just having this independence that I could do it myself. So I've looked at the logistics. I do have the room for it in the front yard to keep it under a cover. I do have the ability to keep it all safe, and I think it would be a positive thing. It would allow me to reach places that I can't in the other two vehicles. It's weird. It's once again the main resistance against it is my brain saying, "But Jason, you're not a paraplegic. Jason, you're not this. Jason, you're not this. You can't get in one of those and go around in one of those." And then I just realised that I am outside of my safe space. I always tell this story about when I first had the Quingo mobility scooter. I felt like I could go anywhere in the fucking world. I was so buoyed up by, you know what it's like if you've got ADHD or anything like that, your brain just kicks into gear and it's like, woohoo, we can do it, we can go anywhere, we can do it. I had visions of me going on a marathon on it or silly things like that. Or travelling down all over the country in it and all these ideas. So I went to a local store that was a mobility store and I bought, which was the interim, I wanted to try it beforehand, a cover for my Quingo. And you had to fit it yourself. And I thought, well, I can pay them and they'll deliver it home and I can install it at home. Or why don't we install it in their car park? And the lady was like, once we've unboxed it, we can't box it back up and send it to you. So make sure that you can do this. I said, yeah. I've got my tools with me on my mobility scooter. I can do this. Oh, God. A 15-minute job turned into a 2-hour job because I had it, the lady brought it out and put it next to the actual mobility scooter. And I thought nothing of it. I got off my mobility scooter. I moved literally 2 foot over to start picking up the parts, and I started to disassociate. I started to disconnect. I was only 2 foot away from my mobility scooter, and I started to disassociate. So I for the next 2 hours, I basically had to hold on to the mobility scooter with one hand and try to move this item and connect it up to the back of the mobility scooter without losing connection with the mobility scooter at any point in time. So I know these days just how much I lose function if I'm not in a safe space. The only other way I can leave the house, and we've tried this, me and Brit have before now, is it's a good one, but it feels so wrong. So wrong to me, because once again, you don't think that you're disabled in the way that you are. Brit came down one time and we went outside my house and walked around the area and back to my house, staying on this side of the road. But I had to hold on to his hand and I had to touch the wall. I had to keep touching the wall to ground myself, even though I was holding, because I didn't want to squeeze too tightly on his hand. I didn't want to cause a burden for this friend. He wouldn't have a problem with it. My brain had a problem with it. My brain had an issue with the fact that I had to do this. And so it was possible, but it was exhausting. So why do I want to... This has been a long video, but I said it was going to be long, so it doesn't matter. Why am I now looking at probably buying a power chair? Because I want to go further. If this cancer scare, however I deal with it, whether it's cancer or just a benign tumour or something like that, whatever happens, I want to be able to go further. And that means being able to use the local bus network and the long distance bus network. And so I need something that can get on the buses. And so, yeah. For an autistic person, this kind of anchor is amazing. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but if you're in a situation where your mental health and your anxiety and all those kind of things stop you from leaving your house, look into a mobility scooter. That vehicle, that connection, first of all, it creates a barrier around you. And the way you can hold on to it and ground yourself can give you a way to leave your house that... I went nearly 3 years without ever leaving the house except for an appointment at the doctor's or the hospital. 3 years of my life I wasted not leaving the house. Now I can stay in on my computers, I can use all my stuff that I've got here, but if I want to go out, I can just go out. And that's awesome. So this is Jason for the Queber channel. This is a long one, 30 minutes. So bye bye for now.